In this video, I want to talk about the art of staging your SketchUp models with some guidelines I've designed to help you get the best pics from your model. I've also added a couple of additional bonus steps to show you how to actually take those final photos using Enscape. So the first thing that you want to do is once your model's completed, you want to get rid of any CAD lines, section cuts, or guidelines. And as you can see here, my model is complete. I don't have anything being cut in the building. I don't have guidelines or CAD lines showing. So this is how you want your model to be when it's time to start taking pictures. The second guideline I have for you is to add accessories and people. So by adding details into your models, this helps your space really come alive. And the goal for any interior designer is that you should be showing that your spaces are enjoyable and that they're usable. So if you don't have people or accessories, that space can look really lifeless and cold. You're sending the wrong message to people who are viewing your picture. So as you can see in this picture, I've got accessories in the right-hand side in that little shelving unit, but as you can see over on the left-hand side, there is none. It kind of makes you wonder, like, what's the purpose of having a shelf there if it's not holding anything, right? So always be mindful about the objects in your space. They need to have things on them in order to make them feel like they're usable and viable. Only add accessories to spaces that you will see in the perspectives. So don't spend like 5 hours adding clothes and shoes in a closet if you're never going to show that closet in an elevation or perspective view. Otherwise, you're just wasting your valuable time completing something that nobody's going to see anyways, right? And don't just accessorize or add people to your perspectives for the sake of just adding them. You gotta give them a purpose. So each object needs to have a purpose for being in the room. So those products in the shelf on the right side, their purpose is to be purchased by the customers of this business. You can even see some of those bottles being used and added to the salon stations in the back. It's kind of the same with people. Have names for your people and have stories for why they are there in the space in the first place. It shows how they're using the space. So here at the reception desk, we got Brad. He's coming in for the first time to check out the prices and services of the salon. Brenda's at the reception desk giving him a warm welcome. And Monica is a stylist who's headed out to lunch for the day. Now, you may not think that accessories are adding people, and especially staging like conversations or interactions with people is important, but it really does add to the realism of your pictures, and that's how you become a higher level designer. Another guideline to add is just thinking about what's happening in the windows. So you need to have some kind of scenery that you're seeing from inside looking out. So right now, that window on the left side, it's not the main focus, but it is important to show that there is something happening outside. So when we do go outside, you can see what I did is I made this giant panel and I put a scenery that I thought would be interesting and goes well with where this building might be placed. I definitely made it oversized. I probably didn't need to make it quite that big, but I just wanted to make sure that no matter what angle that my camera's pointing at, that you can see some of the scenery. Now, Enscape does have different scenes, kind of like as you can see in the background of SketchUp, there's like land and a horizon and the sky up above. Enscape has like deserts and forests and all those kind of things, but sometimes you just need to have a very specific scenery outside. And so what I usually do is I just draw rectangles, and on the face of those rectangles I put the scenery on it. What you have to be mindful of when you do this is the sunlight coming in. You might have to add some extra lights to the outside in case your panel's blocking the actual sun in Enscape. That way you can replicate the sun in the same way. Like, there's lots of things that you can play with. Just be aware that these large panels can block the sun and you might have to compensate for, and it's a nice day. The next guideline I want you to consider is really thinking about staging the interior space. So I'm going to come back into the building, and when showing off your model designs, you want to create a picture that helps a person take in the space properly. You should always kind of include the views of the floor and the ceiling. So if you're taking pictures and you don't see the floor or the ceiling, you're zoomed in too far and nobody's going to be able to really understand what's happening. You need to see quite a bit of flooring and ceiling when you're creating pictures for your presentations, and sometimes that's hard. Sometimes you're in a small space, so you just got to do your best to show a little ceiling and a little floor at least. You got to make it something fun to look at. There's nothing worse than looking at the most boring thing in the room. That's why I'm focused, and my main emphasis is the center of this picture, which is the reception area. That's an exciting desk and exciting colors. It's what you see when you first come into the space. I'm not focused on that product shelf over to the right, and nor am I focused on the doors or even the ceiling at this point. So find that one thing that you really want to focus on and kind of make that the center. Now, the rule of 3 in photography means that you might want to off-center just a little bit, but in a one-point perspective, this is actually a really powerful shot. This is what somebody sees when they walk into the salon. So it is an important perspective. It is good to show your clients what it's going to feel like when you enter the building. Another thing to consider when you're positioning the model to take a picture of is the human eye level. So the average human height is about 5'6". You want your camera to kind of reflect that same level. You can go a little under, you can go a little above that. Kind of depends on what you want to see. I went a little bit lower than human eye level here because I did want to capture some of what's happening in the ceiling. This is what I call like the Steven Spielberg shot, because if you ever watch his movies, he's always filming from below a person looking up towards them. It's kind of like an empowering type of view. So anytime that you can get hints or tips from film or television on how to do a shot and how to create the kind of emotion that you want to get, take some notes from movies, because they have some really great ways to stage the scene of what they're about to film. You also got to think about 1-point and 2-point perspectives. So just make sure that you're positioning your camera correctly. If I wanted to turn this into a 2-point perspective, I can take this little eyeball right here and I can actually kind of look around, and all of a sudden it went from a 1-point to a 2-point. And again, I want to make sure that I get some ceiling and some floor in the foreground and up above here so that I can take in the space properly. Probably been seeing me click on these 2 little tabs up here, and this is what's called scenes in SketchUp. So it's a way that you can go and set up the picture and go back and forth between the pictures. So let me just kind of demonstrate how to do this a little bit. I'm going to come into the salon right here, and let's say that I want to get a nice shot of this. I can orbit around, but I can also kind of use some of these tools, like this here is the field of view. This is the look around, so that I can kind of stay in one spot and rotate around the space a little bit. So let's say that maybe this is a pretty good shot. I've got lots of floor. I can see these people over here. I can get kind of a good understanding of what's happening in the room. Let's say that this is what I want to make my perspective of. I'm going to come over to the default tray, and here you'll see this little tab called Scenes, and under Scenes you'll see this plus and minus sign. If this is the picture that I want to have, I'm going to go ahead and click on the plus sign, and it's going to take a second or two, but eventually that 3rd tab pops up. See how it says Scene 3 right now? Now I can right click on that, and I can rename that tab, so I can do Salon View, and then I can go from outside to the entrance to the salon view. So I hope that you can see the way that this moves. This is how we start setting the stage for doing virtual walkthroughs, is setting up the scenes, and you just basically go from scene to scene to scene. So it takes a little practice, and I am not doing a video yet on virtual walkthroughs. I will probably eventually, but for right now, this is an easy way for you to kind of set up the pictures that you want to take using Enscape, and how you can kind of like walk through this space without having to constantly use the orbit tool, get in the middle of walls. You know how all that goes. So setting scenes and definitely naming them will help you walk through the space easily and efficiently. Okay, so this looks nice. I think what I'd like to do is like put it into Enscape and just see how it looks, see what I need to fix, if anything. So the easiest way for me to show this is to actually put SketchUp on my other monitor, the one that is not being shown in the video, and then just have Enscape up in its full view so that you can kind of understand how this works. That's looking pretty good. I like the lighting effects and things that I'm getting. However, there is some sun issues that I see happening over here. So I think I'm going to use the U command in Enscape, and all I'm doing is typing U, and it's changing the way that that sun is. If you type I, it goes backwards. So kind of watch for how the sun is coming in through the windows, and I think a little bit is fine, but sometimes it's kind of also nice to see how the sun is working without it actually being in there. And I don't have a roof on the back room, so that's why sometimes you can see the sun is coming through that back room. But let's just say, for instance, that I like how this is looking. I might want to put a little bit more light on this person right here. But, I mean, for the purposes of this demonstration, like, let's just say that I'm ready to take this picture. So I'm going to go ahead and come up to the ribbon of Enscape, and you can see this little icon right here. It looks like a little landscape picture. If you hover your mouse, it says screenshot. All you have to do is click on that, and it's going to prompt you to save this picture wherever you want. So I'll just go ahead and save it right here, and then I'll name it maybe Salon View. And it's going to be a ping file. You can always tell it to be a JPEG, but pings are usually great for anything that we're doing for presentational purposes. So I'm going to go ahead and click Save, and then what it's going to do, it's going to render and export that image. So I used my File Explorer to go ahead and find the picture that it created, and here it is. And once this ping or JPEG file has been created, now you can take this file and insert it into like Illustrator or InDesign, a Word document, or even PowerPoint. Like, there's so many different ways that you can add a ping or a JPEG to other files to create presentational materials. And so basically, this is all it takes to create a picture in Enscape. This is how you can stage your pictures, how you can kind of focus on getting the best view, how to make sure that you have enough floor and ceilings, and accessorize and make this space really come alive. This is how you're going to up your game as an interior designer. You're going to make your spaces really fun and enjoyable to look at.